As you can tell from the thumbnail for this video or the pic that you see now on screen, this is a commentary on the contract signed by Geno Smith and Derek Carr, and the contract that's not signed or not yet signed by Lamar Jackson. He will sign something, if you ask me, between now and the end of the time period when he's able to negotiate with other teams. I suspect that initially it might be an offer from some team with multiple first round picks in the 2023 and 2024 draft. Of course, it's also into play that it could be an offer sheet signed after the draft with teams who do not have a first round pick this year, like the 49ers and the Dolphins. I don't know about you, but I don't buy that so many teams have come out and stated we're not in the Lamar Jackson negotiation or sweepstakes or even interest level. Now, they may have said it, or really funneled that statement to someone else that released it for them for whatever reason. I don't believe everything. I'm a skeptical person by nature. I always have been, whether it's football, whether it's life, whether it's my job, or whatever. I find it hard to believe things at face value initially. And I find it hard to believe that these teams and others have already come out and decided that they're not even going to pursue a possible avenue to improve their team quickly. It's not like a rookie quarterback where you may have to fix some things, or you may have to ingratiate them to the speed of the NFL game, or the nature that reads are made, or certain calls, or even the width of the hashes on the field, which is different than in college football. This is a quick, immediate way to improve your team, regardless of who the players involved. Any NFL front office will investigate the option to improve their team, and they'll do their due diligence. And by the way, we will have some film here rolling a little bit of Geno Smith, Derek Carr, and then Lamar Jackson in that order. Maybe some of those teams have already decided, and they've already gone through that process. That would make sense, right? Because there's so much going on in the NFL since the Super Bowl. Researching prospects, making contact with coaches, maybe visiting coaches, watching film with them, and then the combine. And then the draft, preparing for the draft. So maybe there's some teams that have already done their due diligence. They've already done their research on Lamar Jackson, and they were just waiting on the Ravens' decision to either, make that announcement, even though no team announced it publicly. They let other people supposedly do it for them. That's my point. Whenever there's a middleman involved in announcements, I always look at it with a little bit of skepticism. I'm not sure if you do or not. So in any case, we're going to let some of the film run here in a moment. I don't really like to co-sign just random middleman releases from reporters on Twitter that seems to strengthen the team / front office / owner's perspective. The more teams that come out and say they're not interested in the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes, the less teams there are available for Lamar to possibly sign an offer sheet, a tender sheet, whatever it's called, and then the Ravens to possibly match. And I'll talk a little bit later at the end here what I think about that process. There's a lot we don't know still, other than the fact that Lamar Jackson doesn't have a long-term deal in place, and two guys, well, actually three guys now, Geno Smith, Derek Carr, and Jones from the Giants, all do. That one was just announced today. We're going to get into some of the film of Geno Smith and Derek Carr. I've actually watched a significant amount of film of Geno Smith. Look, I want to talk about Geno Smith first, and I'm going to try to tie this all in together, to be honest with you, and relate it to Lamar Jackson later. I was really extremely impressed by Geno Smith, how he played in 2023. It's not just the stats. It was the way he went about it, the classiness that he had, during the games, after the games, whatever. The wide variety of throws that he made. He's always had a strong arm. Dating back to West Virginia, he's always had a strong arm. But the maturity and the toughness that he showed at his age, after the difficulty he had early in his career, the fact that he got the opportunity with Seattle and then had a career year statistically, was like something from a movie. It was just fun to see for me. Look, the Seahawks are an exciting team, in my opinion. The way they build their roster, the tenacity and ferociousness they have on defense. And to me, it was a statement that should be recognized by a lot of people, fans included, myself, you included. NFL analysts should recognize it, but they won't. That guys who really get, only one chance, or maybe even half of a chance to succeed, they can take advantage of opportunities 3, 4, 5, and in some cases 6 years down the road. You see a compilation of throws, some of them complete, some of them incomplete here, just to allow my commentary to be smooth and go on. Let's rewind 1 year. What were people saying about the Seahawks quarterback situation? They were saying they didn't have one. They had Geno Smith, Drew Lock, I believe it was Drew Lock, saying they didn't have one, that they couldn't succeed with those quarterbacks. By the way, one of the things I always love about people who analyze the game is like they'll say, well, why isn't he throwing the ball? He's got a guy wide open out here in the flats. I don't know if you've noticed. The guy out here running the route, he's got his back turned. And Geno Smith recognizes that. Geno Smith's prepared to throw the football. My point is there's a lot of times where if you only watch and evaluate one player, or you only watch and evaluate one aspect of the game, you might miss, and I do this sometimes as well, don't get me wrong, this applies to myself first. You might miss a glaring element to the play that has a big role in determining how quickly the quarterback could get rid of the ball. It ended up being a big play here. My point is, and the way I'm trying to tie this into my Geno Smith little tirade here, is that I love when experts get shut up. I don't know about you. I love it when experts get shut up. Well, actually, let me rephrase that, because they won't shut up. They'll just move on to another story the next day, talking about NFL or college level quarterbacks who they like to pigeonhole as a particular type of player. And that's what they did to Geno Smith when he was 24, 26 years old, 27. That's that. You are who you are, and you're never going to progress past that. And they kind of put you aside and move on to the next shiny little piece in a draft or whatever. I like seeing experts get proven wrong in any sport. I don't know about you. I think about boxing. Muhammad Ali, I think these two fights were separated by 11 or 12 years. He can't possibly beat Sonny Liston or George Foreman. He might not even survive either one of those fights. Buster Douglas, who the hell is that? He's going to get destroyed by Mike Tyson. In hockey, there's no way the Americans can possibly beat the Russians, right, in 1980. Golf, in 86 or 2019, Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods, those guys can't compete. At Augusta National, of course, it's demanding, and more lengthy in 2019 when Tiger played on it. My point is, experts are always wrong. Even though they're called experts, they're often wrong. For whatever reason, though, nothing provides me, personally, more satisfaction than when NFL analysts get proven wrong. And I don't care whether it's NFL analysts on TV, social media, former players, radio, whatever. Nothing makes me feel better about sports, about the fabric of sports, rewarding people who work their ass off, than when a player who's been put in a box, presumably for forever, is able to destroy that box and destroy those narratives. And Geno Smith did that in 2023, and he got paid, a lot. Three-year deal, was it 40 million per, something like that, with incentives. So good for him. Good for the Seahawks that they have some stability there, and they're building a hell of a roster, if you ask me. I'm going to root for them. They're in the NFC, obviously, away from the Ravens. I like their roster. Somewhere on that spectrum of people who got paid a lot and people who have proven that they're worth more than people think is Derek Carr. And I don't know where he is on that spectrum. I'll tell you what I thought. After the roller coaster, I think 3 weeks or so, where he met with multiple teams, apparently rented half of a hotel at the draft, and then signed with the Saints for 4 years, $150 million, something like that, $60 million at signing. Personally, I thought, what the hell are the Saints doing? I really did. What the hell are the Saints doing? But they had the 29th pick in the draft, so they're not going to get a starting quarterback there, presumably. At least someone who can start immediately, like, a Hendon Hooker. Of course, he's got ACL injuries recovering from, but some of those guys that you could get at 29, they might not be able to start for you this year, but maybe they could in year 2. Jameis Winston's under contract for one more season for them, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's probably gone now. My point is, after looking at it, in 2022, Derek Carr clearly wasn't great. He was inconsistent. He really struggled during a 3-game stretch, I think from week 14 to 16. Overall for the year, 61% completion percentage, 14 interceptions against only 24 touchdowns overall. I didn't like the signing initially. I didn't. I thought it looked weird. We even talked about it in my Discord, where we got like 74 or 76 people at this point. But I always like to question myself, and I went back and looked at some of the film, and you see some of it here. I want to tell you about one pattern that I saw that might have impacted the Saints' decision. I think the Saints' decision was probably threefold. Number one, they have the 29th pick, and Jameis Winston's under contract for one more year. I think that he's due like 12 or 13 million, something like that. Andy Dalton's gone. Taysom Hill, they're not going to work on him at quarterback anymore. He's going to be who he is. A guy who plays a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and scores 6 or 8 or 10 touchdowns a season in various manners. I'm not sure, however, that if you sat and watched the film that I watched, and I'm going to try to encapsulate it for you so you don't have to watch, 120, 140 plays like I did. Carr's 2022 season can really be separated in two parts. Week 1, I'm kind of separating from this. I'm kind of removing it, not talking about it. Weeks 2 through 13, he had 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And I think he threw for like 252 per game, something like that. I might be wrong on that last number. But I know it was 18 touchdowns versus 4 interceptions. It's really not that bad, for an 11-game stretch. Of course, 11 games, only 18 touchdowns. That's not going to blow the world away, right? But the 4 interceptions versus 18 touchdowns, that's a pretty good ratio. But then compare that to weeks 14 through 16 last year. You're talking about the very next week, after week 13, when he completes that stretch that I'm talking about, 11-game stretch, 11-week stretch, 18 touchdowns versus 4 interceptions, playing pretty well. Suddenly, the next 3 weeks, weeks 14 through 16, 4 touchdowns versus 6 interceptions. Now, I think they did win 2 of those games, and less than 200 yards per game. And then he's suddenly inactive for weeks 17 and 18. I shouldn't say suddenly. I wonder if weeks 14 through 16 wasn't we're going to stop calling the things that you're not doing well, and we're going to see what you're actually capable of. What I mean is, it was his first year in Josh McDaniels' offense with the Raiders. And I wonder if for a period of time, they weren't protecting him, keeping him away from certain reads that he had shown them he wasn't good at. And week 14 through 16 was kind of like, okay, here's a test. We're going to see if you've improved in these 2 or 3 things that we've got installed in that we want to run consistently to move the ball and score in the NFL. And Derek Carr showed him he couldn't do that, maybe. That's one possibility. Another one is there was an injury that was beginning or lingering, and so they sat him in week 17 and 18 so he didn't get further injured, and then they would, they'd be on the books for next year's salary, which I think was like 38 or 39 million, something like that. I don't know which of those 2 things is true, or if it's just that they decided we're moving on from him, period, and we want to make him inactive totally in week 17 and 18 to let him know that you're done. You guys let me know what you think of that. But in any case, Dennis Allen, who coached him, I think like 8 years ago, rookie year, second year with the Raiders, and then got fired after 4 weeks, I think in 2014, Dennis Allen and Derek Carr had kept up a rapport, apparently. Can he put Derek Carr back in a position to succeed? I don't know, but I guess they think so. And like I said, glancing at the film, I looked at like 120, 140 plays over the course of that 11-game stretch. And he played quite well, to be honest with you. He looked comfortable. He was executing. Maybe that's what the Saints think. Hey, we get a healthy Michael Thomas back to pair with Chris Olave. And Carr can provide us enough efficiency. Is it enough to justify, I think it's $37.5 million a year? I'm not so sure. Personally, I'm not so sure. Now, granted, Carr's got better numbers for his career than Geno Smith does, but appears to be trending in the wrong direction. But to the Saints, it's all relative. What's a quarterback worth? Depends on your position. What's your car worth? It might be worth a certain amount to you. It might be worth less to your neighbor. The guy 2 doors down or the woman 2 doors down, she might really like your car. They might be willing to pay more than your car is currently worth. My point is it's all relative. Whatever the quarterback position is for your team changes what you're willing to offer. And that's the dangerous game, in my opinion, that the Ravens are getting ready to play. Look, Derek Carr has 35,000 career passing yards, 217 career touchdowns. That's by age 31. He hasn't turned 32 yet. He's played in 142 career games. Lamar's played in 70 career games. He's on track for more touchdowns. He's on track for way less career passing yards. But right now he's got a far better winning percentage. $37 million in a year is nowhere near what it'll take, clearly, to get Lamar back in the building. Right? We know that. There's no way that a deal gets done, apparently, unless there's a middleman, an arbiter, to help the Ravens and Lamar Jackson get it done. They couldn't get it done for whatever reason. I really don't care who you blame. I don't care. I'll talk about that in a little bit. The Ravens put the non-exclusive tag on Lamar, who I'll state up front. Like, if you're still listening and you're not a Ravens fan, you're not familiar with my content, he's my favorite player. He's my favorite player in the NFL in the last 10 years. Like, since Ray Lewis retired, Lamar Jackson is my favorite player. I hope, however, and you can tell me in the comment section if you do listen to my content often, that I've been able to be fair and balanced toward Lamar in my analysis and my evaluation of his play, at least as much as I possibly can when someone is my favorite player. I feel like sometimes I've been too harsh for Ravens fans, and they turn me off and don't listen because they don't like what I said. Anyway, look, the analysts, commentators, whatever, they've been spending a lot of the last 5 years telling us what Lamar Jackson is and what he isn't. Right now, he's a free agent, right? Kind of. He himself, since he doesn't have an agent, gets to negotiate with other NFL teams. Personally, I don't mind that he doesn't have an agent. I really don't. I've actually quite enjoyed it. I like people who go against the grain. It hasn't worked out yet for him. Maybe it will. But during a time when we as Ravens fans, we'd like to be thinking about the draft. Should we take Zay Flowers or Jalen Hyatt at 22? We now have to worry every day about getting, the notification. The Atlanta Falcons have tendered an offer to Lamar Jackson for 4 years, $220 million, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You got to worry about seeing that across your phone if you have the Twitter app or whatever news app you subscribe to, or if you're on a browser. Look, I'm okay with whatever perspective a person has. For real, if you're constantly anxious about that notification or that announcement, I mean, I kind of am too. I'll be honest with you, I kind of am. But there's another side to it for me. And I think that this is the forward-thinking part, but I may be off base here, so let me know if I am. I'm actually kind of excited if we do get that notification. Here's why. The hardest part of Lamar getting extended so far has been the negotiations. Now, for fans, it's been not hearing anything, right? We haven't heard anything. The Ravens, as an organization, are tight-lipped, and Lamar is tight-lipped. He's not going to give us more information than we need, and so that's fine. You can blame Lamar if you want to. He doesn't have an agent. I don't care about that. Like I said, I actually kind of like it. I'm against the grain type of person myself. Blame Eric DeCosta. He should have offered more money. Blame Steve Bisciotti. He should have offered more guaranteed money. Blame whoever you want. I really don't care at this point. Here's my point. If another team tenders an offer, and I believe they will, I believe someone will. If another team tenders an offer to Lamar Jackson, I don't really care who it is. I really don't. There's 31 other teams in the NFL. And I guess there's only 30 or 29 who can actually give up the 2 first-round picks to get a signature from Lamar, at least pre-draft, right? Post-draft, I think the Dolphins can, but the 49ers still can't. I could be wrong there. I don't believe the 49ers have a first-round pick the next 2 years. If and when that happens, the negotiations are over. I mean, really, unless I misunderstand it, if Lamar signs a tendered offer, whoever it's from, Falcons, Texans, Patriots, whoever it is, if we get to that point, in effect, a middleman or an arbiter has kind of done our job for us as the Ravens. He's kind of done our job and some of the work for us. And then it's up to the Ravens to just match it, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. You can tell me where I'm off base here. I think it's possible, and I don't know all the specifics. Let me get this out of the way. I don't know all the specifics or details of the procedure. So here's what I mean. If someone says, hey, the Panthers offered 3 years, 165 with 165 guaranteed. So how does the Ravens match work? Can they go 3 years, 180, but only 90 guaranteed, or do they have to maintain that 100% guaranteed option? I don't really know that. I think I know the answer. I think the answer is yes. They have to match it in all aspects, or exceed it, I should say. So those are things I don't pretend to be an expert on or know all the details on. I'm willing to admit that, all right? But here's what I do know. If we get to that point where we've got an offer that someone's given Lamar and he's signed, part of the Ravens' work has been done for them. But unfortunately, that's where we'll get kind of closer to the end, a good end, and closer to the end, a bad end, at the same time. For whatever reason today, the thought that I had was like at an amusement park, like the House of Mirrors, right, where you can kind of stand in the middle of the House of Mirrors. Maybe you're standing there by yourself and you got mirrors on your right, left, in front of you and behind you, and you can step towards one mirror and it looks like you're stepping towards it, but 2 or 3 other mirrors also look, it kind of somehow makes it look like you're stepping towards them as well. Like simultaneously, we're closer to Lamar being extended with the Ravens and, or I guess, him suiting up for another team in 2023. It's at that same time we're closer to what we want and closer to what we don't want. It's like everyone was looking forward to today, March 7th, in getting some type of information that made us feel better, and this one almost just makes you feel worse. Or maybe not feel worse. Things seem more ominous now, more seriously ominous, like a movie plot that's taken a turn in a direction that really doesn't feel good in your stomach, but you know you're getting closer to the end of the movie. There's another element to this that I'd like to cover in another video, though, and it's the timing of the draft and where that timing fits with Lamar's window to sign an offer sheet with another team. And what I mean by that is this, and this will be my final point. The draft and pre-draft free agency sounds difficult for the Ravens because now we're really up against the cap because of the $32 million, $33 million, or maybe it's 35, but I thought it was 32, that Lamar is technically owed right now for next season. But we know that that situation probably changed, right? Unless no one offers him anything, right? But the pre-draft free agency and the draft is an opportunity to show Lamar what we're willing to do as a team. There's certainly going to have to be players in order to keep Lamar on a long-term deal, extend him, so match someone's offer to him. Anything above $32 million, let's say we get to 45, or let's say we get to 48, something like that, there'll be some players that have to be let go, right? So between now and post-draft, the Ravens have got to show Lamar that they're serious about, A, keeping him, number one, and also, number two, that we're serious about providing him with the type of balanced team that he needs to win. Now, I would say that they did that last year. Some of you would probably disagree. I would say that the Ravens went into Cincinnati, the second best or maybe the best team in the AFC, depending on your perspective, whether they should have won that game against the Chiefs in Arrowhead or not. The Ravens went there in the wild card round with a backup quarterback without Rashad Bateman and probably should have won the game. In a lot of ways, outplayed the same Bengals team the week before with a third-string quarterback. With Lamar, with Rashad Bateman, I think the Ravens were set up to win in the playoffs, but we didn't get that. I think the Ravens still probably have to go a couple of steps further to show Lamar, how serious they are. I'm not sure that is trading for a guy who's going to further put our salary cap situation in limbo, like a DeAndre Hopkins, who I would like to see in Baltimore, and I've done videos talking about it. I guess my point is that the next video I cover will be the timing of it. I'll have more specifics because I don't understand exactly how much longer Lamar and other teams across the league get to possibly negotiate and then for a team to offer Lamar a tender or tender him an offer, and then Lamar to possibly sign it. I'm not sure how much longer it is after the draft. I want to say I heard it was 4 to 6 weeks. But in any case, I think that's another element to this, that the Ravens have an opportunity between now and then to show Lamar how serious they are about not just keeping him, but being able to win with him consistently once we get him signed. You guys let me know what you think of the video, what you think of my thoughts. If you have any thoughts about Geno Smith, Derek Carr, or Daniel Jones, signing their deal and then Lamar not getting one. It's a difficult day for Ravens fans, difficult time period, seeing all those other teams and quarterbacks get signed, move on, move toward the draft, be able to focus on it, and we still don't seem to be able to do that yet. If you guys think other people would appreciate my video, my commentary here, please consider sharing a link to this video on social media to help the video get more reach.